Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear. Running, running, no. Keep running.
What is up, One Piece fans? My name is Schyver, and today chapter 1090 came out, so let's get into the official review. So this chapter is named Kizaru. Now we've seen why the chapter is exactly named Kizaru by the end of this chapter, but we got a front cover page of Kuro. And now Kuro really did a number on the Straw Hats early in this series. I'm glad to see him again reading quietly with the cats, but we have to dive into this chapter because it was one big thing after another. So we started chapter off with Luffy actually taking the mic from York and telling everybody who will listen in, hey, this is Monkey D. Luffy, the man who becomes Pirate King. We have Dr. Vegapunk. If you value York's life, move all the ships away from the shore. Now I don't know what Luffy is thinking, but at the same time he is the captain of the Straw Hats, so whatever he say goes. But you can also see York saying like, save me, and you see some of the Marines saying he's a monster like they say he is. And it's like the way that Luffy entitled, the way Luffy imaged between people that don't know him, it seems like he's a demon or he's some type of devil child, and that's not even the case if you really know Luffy. But then we get a big nice panel of Morgan's actually saying what is going on. And we also get Vivi in the same panel as Morgan, and Morgan's actually trying to see exactly if his headliner is true to what it says. So I can understand Morgan is confused, because why is Luffy saying if you value York's life, one of the satellites, and he had Dr. Vegapunk, is this true that Dr. Vegapunk is with Luffy, or is Luffy taking Dr. Vegapunk hostage? And then again, York, why is York's life so precious right now? So I can understand what's going through Morgan's head, because he's not understanding the whole situation, what's going on in his barricade. But the next panel shocks everybody when one of the 5 elders asks Luffy, are you really Luffy? Who is still alive there? And Luffy actually tells him the truth. He says, well, some folks are injuring, and they quickly take the microphone from Luffy and says, Luffy, no, you're not supposed to give your enemies what's going on over here. It's like a weapon, Robin saying. But not before Shepard, one of the 5 elders, says that's a woman's voice. It must be Nico Robin's. So now that the 5 elders know that Nico Robin is right there and maybe one of the wounded, they will take this advantage to actually catch Robin as all this thing sinks down. Luffy is so gullible to the point it may be a weapon for his enemies to know how gullible he is. The most important thing I got out of this last panel is what Jay Garcia, the 3 things that he need to retain are definitely York's safety, Punk Record's brain, and that he need the power plant station that creates Mother Flame. Everything else is disposable. Like I said before, these 5 elders don't care what's in their way. Long as they complete their mission, they are ready to create massive genocide just to achieve the mission they want the best outcome of for themselves. And as Jay Garcia is explaining this to Doberman, he's like, well, Rob Lucci and his agents are in there. Then you see Jay Garcia saying that's just in case if the worst scenario happens, right? And then he continues to tell Doberman like, people are like insects. Just like the insects, they will always breed more to make up for the losses. And that's the way that Jay Garcia and maybe the rest of the 5 elders look at their fellow companions, right? Their fellow co-workers. People in general, they look at them as insects. They always will breed to make up for the losses. And that's somebody who's leading the Navy, who's leading the Marines. In my mind, I thought Lucci was actually grasping the way how the 5 elders work. But during this chapter, I see that he's just a common Marine who will follow orders, the lab dog that he is. Just like Doberman, you got people alongside the Marines who are actually scared to say anything to the 5 elders that will go against them. They're actually terrified because they might know that if they say something wrong to the 5 elders, they might end up dead. But on the plus side with Doberman, even though he's a Marine, he knows this is not right. He just following orders, just like Kizaru and Lucci in this chapter. But we have to continue on to the chapter where we see Luffy and company, the core people, are at. So basically, York is blabbing about like if things happen to her, the people will actually have a buster call. The Marines will unleash a buster call, and the same thing will happen to O'Hara. And we finally see that Nami really knocked some sense into her, because that's really bad to see that she said that and Robin is sitting right there injured. But the most thing I got out of this is Lucci. Lucci is actually counting what's going on inside of the core members of the Straw Hats. He's taking notes of everything, and at the end of this big panel we see what he's actually talking about, and it actually gives us more details at the end of this chapter what he actually was doing. Good thing that some other satellites did come out okay. Edison's still alive. Well, we already know Shaka and Pythagoras is out for commission. And then we see little panels of Lucci actually saying that there are 2 Dr. Vegapunks, you know, satellites are dead. Well, Straw Hats and the other are, and then Kaku actually interrupts him and he's saying, well, I ain't doing nothing. And like I said before, I thought Lucci actually was getting the hang of what the Marines, the 5 elders, was really all about. And we see that his motive is a different motive from Kaku and Stussy. He's a Marine, a secret agent through Outlaw, meaning he would do anything for people like the 5 elders to recognize him as a great patriot towards them. But we have to move on to Usopp actually talking to the captive Cyberpole agents that York already captured in the basement. Now we seen that the Straw Hats actually fed them, so they're actually understanding like the Straw Hats are their savior now. They're looking up to the Straw Hats because they was about to die of starvation, right? If the Straw Hats didn't know that they was down there. And it's not just the Cyberpole agents who York captured is down in the basement. The Seraphim is also down in the basement, and they got captured by the bubble balls, right? And the only reason why they got captured by the bubble balls because it emits the energy of the sea. The same thing that the Mark 3's pacifistas have, the bubble iron defense. Those things are wrapped around the Seraphim and keeping them at bay. So these bubble balls are ideally the best thing you can have to capture Devil Fruit users. And not just that, we see that most of the Seraphim are actually talking, but we know that Jinbei is the quiet one, right? Bear is a quiet one, but we got Hancock and Hawkeye, the clones, the Seraphim clones, are actually saying things. And the Hawkeye Seraphim is speaking like, how can I get captured like this? But as we continue with the chapter, we see that S-Snake, the boy Seraphim, has a weak spot for Luffy. And not just that, in the next panel, we see that Stussy is also there and giving everything the intel that she told Dr. Vegapunk about how many people are along the shoreline, how many people that might be in the ship, and how many ships there is. These are 2 different occasions where clones are feeling the same thing as the original, as in feelings, mind frame, right? Their way of choices, right? Stussy, she cannot go against Dr. Vegapunk, right? Boy Hancock Seraphim cannot go against Luffy, right? And Dr. Vegapunk is intrigued that the same thing is happening to these clones, like the bloodline element is passed down from the original to the clone. It was S-Snake who actually unpetrified Frankie and his family, right? It was actually Stussy who's giving intel to Dr. Vegapunk about the Marines, who Stussy is actually a Cypherpole agent alongside Vegapunk. That is crazy to know that Stussy cannot go against Dr. Vegapunk, because the real Stussy couldn't go against Dr. Vegapunk. They have really relations with each other that's more than just a work basis, right? Just like I said with Hancock. Hancock adores Luffy. S-Snake cannot go against Luffy at all because boy Hancock actually is infatuated with Luffy. And she feel the same way. The Seraphim S-Snake feel the same way as boy Hancock. We can go more in detail with this, a smaller detail, right? You see in the real world where there are donors who donate their organs to individuals and then they pick up the traits from their donors. This is the same exact thing that's going on in the One Piece verse. These bloodline elements, the blood that's infused inside these Seraphim from the original people, they feel the same way as the original. But we move on to Atlas saying Dr. Vegapunk, the communication system is back up and running, but the Frontier Dome is actually still closed. So nobody can actually escape while the barrier is up. And then we see that York actually put encrypted code on it for it can stay closed. And we're gonna have to see exactly how like Dr. Vegapunk and the rest of the satellites will actually undo this cryptic code, because York shut her brain out for none of the satellites can actually get inside her brain. But I can't say the next few panels are actually good. We see the game plan actually, and we see that one, the law post is pointed northeast, and and Dr. Vegapunk said that's pointing to Elbaph. So the next voyage actually will be Elbaph once hopefully they can get off the island safely. But I love to see that Luffy and Usopp is so excited to get to Elbaph. But we have to move on to actually Lucci giving Stussy this look like, what are you doing? And it's like, like I said before, you cannot have Stussy not go along with Dr. Vegapunk. She's programmed to go along with Dr. Vegapunk. And finally, we actually get the game plan on how to actually leave Egghead. So the ship needs to be pointed northeast. So Dr. Vegapunk had the Vega Force 1 to actually be back there so he can actually catapult the Straw Hats to leave, but it can only go through Egghead's airspace. So after it leaves the airspace, it will actually fall to the ground. So Frankie actually got in his mind that it's good because the Kudo burst can actually make us fly 1 kilometer, and Dr. Vegapunk was so shocked and excited. So the game plan is actually to face the ship northeast, so it will be easier for Vega Force to actually pick up it and head northeast where the best direction will be, where the long post is pointed to, where Elbaph is going to be at. But we still have to go forth in this chapter where we see that Dr. Vegapunk is very upset that York would not give us the code to let down the dome. Dr. Vegapunk Atlas mission is actually to crack the code to let down the dome for everybody can leave, because at this point right now nobody can leave. There's a bunch of laser beams gonna be shot out if they try to leave the dome right now when it's still up. So Dr. Vegapunk made sure that Lilith, Bonnie, Frankie, and Luffy actually moved the ship to the back side of Egghead. So when the time comes when the dome is shut down, they can use Vega Force 1 to actually carry them down and use a Kuno burst to actually get away. So they already got things set up to the point when they can hurry up and leave, right? And then we get these little panels of actually Bonnie's basically saying like she's not trying to kill Dr. Vegapunk anymore. So we know that Bonnie knows more about her father now and why her father wanted to turn to a pacifista. We're gonna get that probably after this is all said and done when we leave Egghead. So we move on to Barcelona and Jay Garcia, where they have intel actually from Raw Lucci of what's going on in the Labo phase. So as Jay Garcia and Barcelona get intel, Jay Garcia actually wants Kizaru to fly over the dome because he's actually a light dude who can use laser beams, but he actually can fly over the dome with his lightning speed to get to the other side. But Barcelona actually is telling Jay Garcia that's going to come with the price. There are 50 pacifistas and Sea King beast machines that will start shooting as soon as I get over that, so there will be a loss of life and some people will actually be pulverized because of these pacifistas. They got so much ammunition on Egghead that this is going to be a very bad decision to make. So at the same time, if they actually going to try to have Kizaru go to the dome, Sintumaru and these pacifista Mark 3s will actually sink the ships as soon as Kizaru is over the dome. A loss of life, and it will be major casualties by this mishap. But as you can tell, Jay Garcia is not really concerned about the casualties. He's actually asking Kizaru where's the power plant to Mother Flame. And then we see Kizaru actually handing over the details to Jay Garcia that actually Lucci brought together in these pages. But after Kizaru gave Jay Garcia the plans, we see that these people, the Marines, are already on their battle station, and we see that some of them are ordered to fly to the shore if they can use Rukushiki. That is the 6 powers based on the Cypher Pole agents, and you can actually see some of the Marines have different objectives. We got a secret objective for Kizaru that Jay Garcia bestowed against him, and you got some Marines who actually want to save the Cypher Pole agents. That's a good thing, but at the same time, if they only knew what Jay Garcia is actually trying to do right now, these people would be shocked and hurt to know that this guy don't even care about them. But the next panel we get that Luffy and Frankie made it to the top of the Egghead where their ship is at. Unfortunately, we see that Kizaru is on the move. He used one of his moves to get closer and over the frontier dome, and then he has a clash with Sintumaru, and Sintumaru is basically saying that his defense is of the best, and we seen what happened with him with Lucci. That defense was nowhere around. With him actually saying his defense is the world greatest, he got to stand on that, and we did not see that with Lucci. And I can say observation hockey is on the defensive side of things. We know that real hockey is also a defensive side of hockey. So at the same time, where was all this when you was fighting Lucci? I can say that Lucci definitely surprised him. He did not see that Lucci would actually speed blitz him. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. If you saying your defense is the greatest, is the best, you have to stand on that. And the clash between Sintumaru and Kizaru was good. But you saying your defense is good than that? We have to see that, because we seen with Lucci, that was not the best. All I'm saying is, if your defense is the world greatest, it's not giving that example on Egghead arc. It's not showing that. Observation haki, real haki, yes, the clash between Kizaru and Shikamaru is a good one, right? But at the same time, we seen less of you, Shikamaru. You have to do better. Somebody has to stay behind, because Kizaru can actually fly behind the Straw Hats as they cootie burst to get throughout Egghead. Now listen, I can't say one thing. They definitely have refuge in the Revolutionary Army. Shikamaru, without the Vegapunk, can go to the Revolutionary Army. Shikamaru actually grew up without the Vegapunk, really. He may look at him as a foster father, but we have to have somebody stay behind, because Kizaru can actually speed blitz the Sunny with his powers, right? So I don't know what Dr. Vegapunk got up his sleeve. I'm hoping that Dr. Vegapunk actually capture Kizaru with his bubble ball, right? That would be good. But if not that, somebody has to stay behind, right, to make sure that Kizaru will be left behind and cannot speed blitz like he just did the Frontier Dome to the Sunny. But after this clash between Shikamaru and Kizaru, we see a small panel of Luffy saying, there's somebody coming, and he's strong. Now, we seen that his observation haki is top notch now, right? He wasn't thinking like that when he came down crashing in front of, Kizaru, Akainu, and Okiji at Marineford War. He wasn't thinking that, and now that he finally understands the power of an admiral now, he is shooken up. I don't know if this is a shake up thing like I'm excited, or is a shook up thing like, man, this guy's on the same level as Rayleigh strong. So I can't wait to see actually Luffy and the Straw Hats face off with an admiral. We have to see that, to see a new entry level Yonko, which is Luffy, facing off with a tough admiral like Kizaru. Don't be alarmed. If Luffy is banged up by an admiral, we have to understand that he's an admiral. He has history. He has experience. This guy faced off with Rayleigh, right? And was kind of scared of Ben Beck. And these the guys that we see that Luffy's not stronger than. But we're going to see the gap between Luffy and Kizaru hopefully in this coming chapter. And Luffy's not going to be scared. This is something Luffy had to do to protect his crew, protect his friends, protect his Nakama. Luffy had to face off with the best to see how far he has to go and to see how far he came, right? And like I said before, this is the final saga. Luffy still has a lot to learn. Luffy is not on the same level as Shanks. Title wise, yes. But strength wise, haki wise, no. Luffy had to see exactly where he's going to be at in the future by facing off with a Kizaru. And I can't wait to see that. At the same time, I'm okay if Luffy gets shooken up and get beat to the point where he gets beat and understand the level of an admiral, and he had to continue his training in the haki department. That's good. I just want to see Luffy and company go to Elbaph at this point. Great chapter, 10 out of 10. Like, comment, subscribe to get more of me and more One Piece content. Also, follow me on Twitter to get more daily updates on when I'm coming out with a poll on my Face Off series episode 2. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm Schyver. See you again. Peace.